Innovation just grows. From fintech to AI, we summon the best. Never a weak link, we put them to test. Precision and focus, no room for the noise. If the world needs talent, we deploy. Deploy, elevate, redefine. Yeah, built to last, designed to shine.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Texan City podcast. My name is Daniel, and we are in Huntsville, Alabama today. Today is actually the day we're here for Texan City, Huntsville. We're going to be having it just maybe, 2 or 3 blocks that way at the camp. We're in this lovely generator space. It's absolutely beautiful space and everything. We're doing the AI business showdown tonight, so super excited. Hopefully you were able to attend. If not, put it on the calendar because in another 3 months we should be back up here. But for today's episode, I want to introduce everybody to Tristan Morris. We're gonna be talking to Tristan about his development journey and what he's doing and the things that he values and everything. So Tristan, why don't you go ahead and take a minute and just introduce yourself to the audience, give us a little bit of background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Tristan Morris. I'm a software engineer. I'm currently working at UAH at one of their research centers called SMAP. And
what does that stand for?
Systems Management and Production.
Okay.
So basically we make paperwork software for procuring weapon systems.
Okay.
So it's a very DoD defense contracting.
Security levels and all that.
Yeah. And so that's what I do for my day job. And then on the side, I've been working on businesses, trying to see if I can do my own entrepreneurship journey. And so the one I'm working on right now is called InViz, and it's basically a mental health chatbot that patients can talk to in between therapy sessions. So that's what I'm working on right now.
That's pretty cool. So let me ask you this. How did you get, because obviously you're developing out the chatbot, you're doing a lot of development.
Yeah.
How did you get started in development? What's your development or origin story, if you will?
Yeah. So the first time I ever tried to program was when I was playing around with my dad. He wanted me to make video games. So I learned how to do a little bit of Python, but I actually didn't get interested in it that much then because there was a lot of math that I didn't know at the time. I was 8, and then we were trying to learn geometry and programming at the same time. It was
just a couple grade levels above where
yeah. So I was like, ooh, I don't know if this is for me. But my dad kept pushing me and was like, I really think you would be good at it. You're just logical minded. And so I ended up going to college for computer science.
Nice.
And so that's my main.
And where'd you go?
I went to Florida State.
Oh,
go Noles.
You're a Seminole. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Go Blazers.
Nice.
So anyway, keep going.
Yeah. And so when I went to college, I was originally pre-med. Okay. But what had ended up happening was I took a programming class in my sophomore year. And at the time, I was also rushing a fraternity, and I was very busy, and I was taking organic chemistry too at the time, and I was really struggling with that. And so basically every time I was doing my organic chemistry 2 homework, I found that to relax, I was actually doing my programming homework, and I was like, well, maybe this is a sign.
Yeah, one of the things I've heard over the years, and even from back in college, because at UAB we have a lot of pre-med people and things like that. If people are going to weed out, it's always in the organic chemistry.
Yeah,
it's absolutely in the organic chemistry. So what was the programming class that you were doing the homework to relax?
It was just a programming 1 class, but it was C++, learning object-oriented programming. It was pretty basic, but it was still fun to me.
Okay, so you pivoted from pre-med to computer science.
Yeah.
Was there anything in college that kind of inspired you through to continue to pursue computer science and in a career in programming, or was it just hey, I've graduated college, I'm going on, the next logical step is to find a job? Yeah,
I mean, I feel I didn't really get passionate about it in college. I kind of was just taking my classes and stuff, but sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, so you finished college, you weren't as passionate about it, but you continued on into career. Where did your path take you at that point?
Yeah, so right after college, I originally had the job offer from this like really cool position with the NSA. I was going to do like offensive security type of stuff.
Ooh, fun!
But I didn't end up passing the polygraph test, which is what you have to do, like, you know, stick up and everything. And so then I was like, okay, I guess the NSA is not for me. But I ended up working for a defense contracting company that I interned with the summer before called Tritium, which is based here in Huntsville.
Gotcha.
And I had a lot of fun with that.
Obviously, it's a security firm, and you may not be able to talk a lot about those things, but like, was there anything there that you particularly found fascinating or intrigued you? Or was there anything that you did while you were there that really helped kind of pivot you into where you went next?
I would say like some of the most fun parts was when they would give me an assignment and it was like, we have no idea how to do this. Please just go research the internet and figure it out. Like those are the ones that are really fun because it feels like Mission Impossible kind of.
Yep.
So one of the ones that I remember is we were working on like this application called DAS, Data Acquisition System. Mm-hmm. And essentially what it is, on test ranges, there's a lot of equipment that they use to record how everything's going down.
And when you say test range, I'm assuming it's like either a gun range or military equipment like tanks?
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
And so what we were building was, before our equipment was built, basically there were like these 1,000-pound, like huge discs that they would put on different equipment, like tanks, like you were saying. But those are so heavy, you can't just put that on a drone, right? Yeah. And so the government really wanted something smaller. So we went from like 1,000-pound discs to like something you can hold in your hand, like less than 10 pounds.
Something like Arduino based or something.
And it would, one of the things that we were stuck on was the video streaming back to home base, basically.
Yeah.
And so I helped figure out what the right like video codec would be to handle like low bandwidth environments, but still being able to stream like high quality video back.
Yeah, is it one of you talking about drones and that video and everything like that makes me think of drone racing.
Oh yeah, like
because that's a similar kind of way that you would end up doing something like that. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, similar technology for sure.
Cool. So from there, obviously, internship became a position. You moved on from them at some point. What was kind of next as far as your development career went?
So the next thing I actually did was go to Generator. So I was working, and I just always felt like I want to see if I can start my own company. Let's see like what's out there. And so I was like looking up online, like incubators, like startup accelerators, like, is there anything in Huntsville? And I found the company Generator. And so like 5 days before, something like that, before the application due date, I was like, let's just brainstorm a bunch of ideas and like see what sticks. And I thought of this one, also InViz. So I've used that company name twice, but
it's a good name.
Yeah, I like it. But basically that company that I went in with to Generator was, can I help local businesses show up better on Google search?
Got it.
And so I did a lot of like search engine optimization type of work. Yeah. There's this service called Google Nearby, which is essentially, if you look up like running shoes near me or any type of product like location based, there's like a carousel, a bunch of images of the products that show up at the top. But if you ever look and inspect, basically every single one is like Best Buy, Walmart, Old Navy, like all the big brands. But none of the local businesses could do it because it was kind of technical to implement. And so I was like, what if I built software that made it easy for small businesses to get on the carousel? Because I found this study that was like, if you list on this service, you could see 33% uplift in revenue and foot traffic to your store. And I was like, that's perfect. Like,
that's huge for a small business. Something like that is huge.
Yeah,
that's a game changer.
And so I was like, let's try that out. And so I went and tried to do my own startup for a little bit, and It didn't end up working out, so that's how I ended up at UAH. But I definitely had a lot of fun, and I think it was a really good experience, like being kind of doing everything by yourself, you know.
So obviously, you know, now you're at UAH, you've moved on to that, but you're on to the second version of InViz.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that, and how I would love to know, like, how your learnings from the first one have influenced kind of what you're doing with this new version of InViz.
Yeah. So the way that this project got started, since I'm very much in the defense industry, you could say, there's like these grants online for government grants. So Army Research Organization known as DARPA was soliciting for basically technology to help with their veterans with mental health, specifically suicidal veterans. And so it was, can you build AI that can support the VA clinicians to serve these suicidal veterans? And so I wrote out this whole white paper outlining like all the things that I wanted to do. And I submitted it, and it was like a couple months wait before hearing back from them. But after I wrote the white paper, I got so excited, I just decided I was going to go and build it anyway. Before I knew I was going to get any money or anything.
See, that's when you know you are a passionate developer. It's like you see a problem and you're like, screw it, I'm just going to go build it. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. So you started developing it, building it, like as you were starting that initial part before you had funding and everything like that. Like, you know, what were some of the challenges developing that? What was kind of the process that you went through? Take some time to walk us through that.
So the white paper that I wrote was pretty detailed. So I kind of had already done a lot of the research on like kind of what type of technology I would need to use and all that kind of stuff. But one of the biggest challenges I ran into after building it was like doing HIPAA compliance. So when you're working with any type of medical data, like there's so many things you have to do. Like you have to write like I wrote like 37 pages worth of, which is a lot for me, of like technical, like policies and procedures about like how do you encrypt your data? What would happen if there was like a breach in security? How do you recover from that? How do you reach out to like clients that are affected? A lot of that was a really big learning experience for me. Like, you know, there's a lot of security stuff in the defense world, but the terminology and everything is a lot different transferring over to HIPAA. So that was one of the big things.
Would you say, and I'm just curious about this, would you say, like, even though the terminologies are different, you know, from healthcare to defense, are the concepts and potentially even the procedures roughly the same, or are they very different? Like, well, this pure me, I'm just curious about this.
I think I would say they are pretty similar. Like concept-wise, it's very similar. I would say actually the defense industry is more strict on things that you have to follow. They have a more outlined process. Like they give you like bullet points like do this, do this, do this, do this. Whereas the medical one, it's kind of more up to you. Like they have like concepts, like make sure that your data in transit is protected from the outside world.
Right.
Like that's a lot less specific than in the DoD. It's like make sure you have TLS security specifically.
Gotcha.
You know, so it was a lot of like instead of just following 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's like figure out like what is like the standard in the industry.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there is that kind of difference, the particulars between the defense and healthcare systems?
I think the differences are mainly because HIPAA compliance, the same document, this is really interesting to me, the same documentation for HIPAA compliance for like a startup company for software is the same HIPAA compliance that like a doctor or a therapist would have to use. And so it's a lot more general because
they're not technical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. All right, cool. So you started developing, I'm assuming, like, did you have like a beta or an alpha before you got notice back that you got? Because I'm assuming you got the grant.
I actually didn't get the grant.
Oh,
so
let's talk about that. You didn't get the grant. Walk me through that.
Yeah, so that DARPA grant, I had known coming in, like the likelihood is not that high.
Okay.
I think supposedly the success rate, it was a SBIR grant, which stands for Small Business Independent Research. And basically the idea of those grants is like, we as a government want to fund up and coming companies and not just give all the money to like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, all of those.
Right.
So these type of grants are for the small businesses.
Okay.
But the success rate on those is like 15-20%. So
super low.
Yeah. So I kind of knew coming in, like my chances aren't that high. But I was like, okay, if I win this, I get $250,000, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And it's all like no strings attached too. So I was like, why not? Let's apply. And
worth a shot.
I actually have another friend in town who I didn't know him before, but he applied to the exact same grant.
No way.
And neither of us got it. But when I found out, I was like, this is competition. But when I didn't get it, I was a little frustrated, but I had already built out the whole beta, like you were saying.
Right.
And so I was like, well, if I'm not going to work with the VA, let's see if I can work with individual therapists instead.
And so is that like walk me through now that you have your beta, now that you're decided, hey, we'll go with individual therapists, kind of walk me through kind of what was the next particular piece. Like, was that what brought you back to Generator, or did you try and go out on your own to individual therapists and start to try and fund that way? Like walk me kind of through that entrepreneurial process.
Yeah. So actually, because I developed the software myself and I did like all the HIPAA compliance myself, the software actually isn't that expensive to run.
Really?
I think I spend like $60 a month on everything.
Wow.
Like it's really cheap. Like if you know how to like host everything yourself and everything.
Even because I'm assuming there's an AI component to it. And like one of the things we hear all the time through the bigger companies, like, with Claude and ChatGPT and things like that, like it's just hell expensive because of processing costs and things like that. You're not running into as much. Is that just because of volume, or like?
Yeah. So volume wise, it's not that expensive because we don't have that many people on the service. So
okay. Yet.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah. But so like cloud hosting, everything's on Amazon Web Services.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily one of the cheaper cloud hosting providers. Like typically they're known as kind of like gouging people.
Fair.
But at the same time, they were the easiest ones to get HIPAA compliance because when you host things, you have to get what's called business associates agreements with all of the companies that you work with, basically saying, we're not going to peer at any of your data. We're not going to sell it to anybody. We're not going to give it away.
Gotcha.
And we make sure that our hardware is in a secure place, locked up how it should be.
Yep.
So I never had to worry about any of that type of stuff. And to get my business associates agreement, a lot of companies, they'll like make you go into like an enterprise plan, or they'll make you like get into like a series of meetings. For Amazon Web Services, like click a button and you're good. Wow. After you follow like their regulations.
Yeah, you verified yourself. You done all of the normal security type compliance type things.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, cool. So you've got the product, you've got it hosted and everything. Now you were the product first type entrepreneur, but at some point you got to have customers. Walk me through kind of like, what that process has been for you.
Yeah, so it's kind of been a little bit of a struggle, to be honest. But I've been going to my most successful thing has been going to different meetups in Huntsville, just talking to therapists in person. I've found. So
real quick, what kind of meetup? Pure ignorance here. What
Yeah.
kind of meetups do therapists go to?
So there's an organization called North Alabama Mental Health Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically their goal is to try to improve the community's mental health as a whole.
Gotcha.
And so it's actually not just therapists that go. There's like police officers,
Oh, wow.
there's like first responders, there's just people that are interested in mental health in general. But the main people are
Main audience is
therapists.
therapists.
It is at a like therapy office.
Okay, gotcha. All right, cool. So you're going to meetups. You're talking. Obviously, you don't have to name them, but like how did you close your first customer? Being from a development background and things like that, I'm assuming you didn't have a lot of sales experience. Obviously, you've been through Generator, and so like there's a little bit of selling yourself, through kind of going through that experience. But like, talk me through like being a developer but having to sell a product. Like how did you do it, and what is your thought process?
Yeah, so everyone I work with right now is like free beta.
Okay.
So it wasn't like a paying customer.
That's all right.
But the first
still
person,
customers.
Yeah, the first person I got working with me was a therapist that I met at the North Alabama Mental Health Coalition. But it was a friend of a friend basically recommended me.
Gotcha.
And so that I've found has been really useful, having that network.
That referral network.
Yeah. But so basically I reach out to her and I was like, hey, I'm Tristan Morris. I've got this new product. I'm wondering if you're interested. And she was like, yeah, sure. And what ended up happening was I went to her office the first time and I kind of told her about my idea and learned a little bit more about her business as a practice. And she's very tech focused.
Okay.
She said if her job wasn't a therapist, she'd probably be like a programmer or something like that.
That's always a good
that
person
makes
to start
so
with.
much sense, right? And I walked her through the entire product because as of right now, it's not streamlined enough. Like as a software where like I can't just hand someone the software and they know how to use it instantly. Right. So I went and did like the whole onboarding process with her, and then that's how it worked. Yeah,
and that's one of the things kind of with the general overall sales processes, which is something that, I've had to study, is like especially kind of early on, you've got to have those alpha clients, those beta clients who are willing to give you that open and honest feedback so that you can eventually get to that point where it's like, hey, I can hand you the software, it has its own little short tutorial, and boom, it's very intuitive and things like that.
Yeah.
To me, and maybe you've noticed this too, like especially with developers, there's a little bit of that gap getting there. And I think it's amazing that you've been able to kind of start that process of kind of bridging that gap and getting to that.
Yeah, it's definitely hard, but I mean, it gets easier,
Yeah, but also programming is hard in general too.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, so you're not afraid to do hard things.
Yeah.
So that's freaking amazing. So now, obviously, you have clients. Currently, I think you mentioned you guys are in a beta?
Yeah, so we've got an open beta right now.
Okay.
So we're trying to recruit more customers. I'm also in another program called Builders and Backers.
I've heard of that. Talk to me a little bit more about that and what you're doing with that program.
Yeah, so that's a organization based out of Arkansas. And basically it's it's really for pre-MVP.
Gotcha.
Like people who don't have a product yet. But I kind of applied anyways, even though I had my product.
Yep.
And the way it works is every 2 weeks, you've got like a 2-hour lesson, like lecture that you go to. And at the end of the program, which is what we're at right now, you get $5,000 to spend on basically whatever you want, as long as it gets approved by the organization, to try to help kickstart your company.
Yep.
And so right now my plan is to use some of that money to use like LinkedIn Sales Navigator.
There you go.
And this company called Dripify, which helps automate like connecting with people on LinkedIn and sending out like those messages like, hey, my name's Tristan. Are you interested?
Yep.
Check this out. Here's some more information.
Have you obviously you've kind of been going through this process, and like I mentioned before, you're more of a developer, not necessarily a salesperson.
Yeah.
Have you started kind of researching and building what your sales process is going to look like tactically?
Not completely, but I do have like some of the basics down, I guess.
Yeah. And again, I'm just curious. I'm just, because again, that whole developer mindset and coming through that, like, it's super interesting to me that, like, you've tackled in my head, like, all the hard development stuff.
Yeah.
And now, you're getting into that sales stuff, which, sometimes takes a special talent that either, is natural, like, some other people, Chase, or, it's not quite as intuitive to people like you and me, and kind of learn that process. So I'm always curious to know what's inside of some people's heads and everything like that. So as we're kind of starting to wrap up, one of the things I always like to ask people is, like, up and coming developers, like, what is some advice you have for them? What are some tools that you've got to learn this, or go and, or talk to me kind of through that. If you were to have a brand new developer come in, and you were going to teach and mentor them, like, talk to me what you would tell them.
Yeah, I think the first thing I would recommend is, like, try out Cursor. Have you heard of Cursor before?
I have heard of Cursor, yeah.
Have you ever used it before?
I have not used it yet.
It's pretty fun. But it's a really useful tool. It's basically like you have ChatGPT in your IDE. So like as you're programming, you can just talk to the chatbot, and it'll write the code, and it'll show you the code changes.
I think we actually had a couple of people who were using Cursor at one of our events in Birmingham. We did a quick code challenge. Like, they had 15 minutes to come up and solve a problem. And I think the problem that we gave them was, like, who's going to win the SEC basketball tournament this year or something like that. So I think we had, because there was one guy who literally set up his computer and just, like, had his AirPod in and did it completely through that. So
So he was talking to it?
He was literally just talking through it and everything. And, like, I think he was one of the few people who actually finished.
Oh, nice.
Because we had 6 or 7 people and not all of them finished, which was fine. It was 15 minutes.
Right.
But, like, I think he was one of the few people who finished. Anyways, I'm sorry. So Cursor, keep going.
Yeah. So one of the things, like, have you heard of vibe coding before?
No.
Okay. So vibe coding is basically this idea. It was popularized by this guy named Andres Karpathy, I think is his name.
Okay.
But he's a very big in the ML space. He's like one of the top engineers at Tesla.
Got it.
He worked at OpenAI and was one of their top engineers before he started his own company. But he was basically like, stop writing code manually. Talk to AI instead. And I'm a really big proponent of that, because, like, for my first company, working on the all the retail SEO type of stuff, just because I'm a young developer, I somewhat struggled to make a lot of progress in my head quickly.
Gotcha.
But working with Cursor, it helps to kind of, like, give you the aspects of, like, code knowledge that you're not familiar with. But one of the things that I always recommend, like, read the code. Like, even though it can write everything for you, it's really useful to read the code, because these LLMs, they don't have infinite context. So eventually you're going to have to understand what's going on to, like, be able to prompt it correctly, to know, like, where are we going with the software.
See, that was one of the things, God, I say early on, I think this conversation happened like November, December of last year, which was what, 6 months ago. But, like, where is that balance of, like, letting the LLM write the code for me versus the time that it's going to take me to kind of troubleshoot and things like that. And I feel like even in just the last 6 months, that equation has, like, it takes me 30 minutes to write, but 3 hours to like work with it, but 3 hours to decode. I feel like that equation, even just in the last 6 months, is changing. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, every time, like, I'm a big fan of Google's models, and I actually use Google's models for my chatbot.
Okay.
But every time they make a new release, it's like, wow, this thing's better.
Gotcha.
And but you still have to read the code, like I was saying, because like, yeah, there's a lot of still troubleshooting and debugging that you got to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, any parting shots, final rounds, anything else you'd like to say to our audience before we start wrapping up?
Not really. I'm really happy you had me on, though.
No, thank you so much for coming on. We've really appreciated having this conversation. Everything.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing conversation. A lot of little nuggets and tidbits there, for developers, whether they're young and aspiring. There we go. Or seasoned, things like that. So thank you so much for being on. Thank you guys for watching up until this point. We do want to take a minute and thank our sponsors, the Apollo Coalition, especially for tonight in Texas City, Huntsville. Really appreciate you guys, Generator, for letting us use this amazing space. And then, of course, Deploy Alloy and Alloy Digital, great partners with Tex in the City. One thing that we do want to make sure that we take a moment and mention is we're going to be at Sloss Tech, and particularly on Friday, June 27th, we're going to be hosting a little Shin Digital. So we're hosting the official after party of Sloss Tech this year in Birmingham. We're super excited. It's going to be at Workplay Theater, and top of the bill is an artist named Pinkbeard. Which if you and dude literally has a pink beard.
That's hilarious.
Like it's so cool and everything. And he's a little bit more of a country focused artist. I think he's kind of rebranded from Sebastian Cole, was his original name.
Mm-hmm.
But he came out with a song. It's like 2.5 minutes. I Lived. Oh, it like being from South Alabama, it speaks to my soul. So we're super excited to have him headlining a few other great bands who are going to be on the bill. Tristan, thanks again for being out, and thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Innovation just grows. From fintech to AI, we summon the best. Never a weak link, we put them to test. Precision and focus, no room for the noise. If the world needs talent, we deploy. Elevate, redefine.